Welcome, everyone. Fred Gleek here with Bill DeWeese for our weekly podcast on how things went for Bill DeWeese. Hey, Bill, how
Hey,
was your
Fred.
week?
It was good. And it was another kind of short week. Today is Good Friday that we're recording this, so for all intents and purposes, there's not a lot going on out there today. Shall we start with the total, or how do you want
Yeah, why don't we start with the total?
to? This week I made $5,477. So it was
Even before Friday numbers are coming in, huh?
yeah. And actually, really, it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't expect anybody else is going to send anything in. I had a few little straggling pickup lines to do, but really, most people have taken the day off.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. How'd Monday go?
Monday was busy. Let's see here. I did some pickups for Microsoft and Pepsi. I did a 7-page mortgage lending narration.
Exciting.
Very exciting stuff. Auditioned for some medical narration, which is kind of interesting. Medical narration is really the better paying of narration work out there. And I don't have a background in pharmacology or medicine, but I made a decision several years ago that if I ever had the opportunity, I would take it and I would learn. And I did. And it was hard. It was really hard. But now I'm fairly proficient, and I pick up work on a fairly regular basis.
Please describe what was hard about it.
Just the terminology. The terminology it's almost like learning a new language.
Yep.
At least it was for me. I wasn't familiar with all the terms, so I just kept a dictionary close by. Dictionary.com is your best friend, and Merriam-Webster.com, and and so now I do pharmacological stuff and medical stuff on a fairly regular basis.
Excellent. Okay.
I did some imaging for a light rock station in Virginia. I did some software training for Cisco. I did a 9-page training script for Hitachi, and did some also internet security narration. So it was a pretty busy day.
And give me a breakdown on what percentage of those were existing clients versus new clients.
Let's see here. Hold on here. I think 2 of those jobs I just mentioned were new. The rest of them existing. So, that 75 to 80% existing client repeat business tends to hold fairly true.
Boy, and for people listening to this who are just getting started in the business, I think that's a pretty big lesson.
It is. I never think of a job as a job. I think of it as a prospective client, ongoing work. So it's not just whatever that job pays. You may get 10 more of those through the year and over the next 10 years.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's take a look at Tuesday then.
Tuesday, I did some interesting cruise line travel agent training, which is you just never, every day is an adventure. You just never know what you're going to get. I did a video that welcomed new employees to a manufacturing facility. There's a grocery chain called BI-LO, B-I-L-O, and I did some training narration for their cashiers. I did a narration for a European client. And by the way, I think there's something worth mentioning here. I do a lot of work for European clients. I would imagine probably at least 20% of my work, maybe a little more, comes from Europe.
And did you go out specifically searching that out? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, I sought out an agent in Europe, and there's another big production company in Europe that I sought out. And there's the big company it's a big production company. They do work all over Europe. And they signed me onto their roster years ago. And literally, it took 4 years for me to get my first job with them.
Wow.
4 years.
Would we refer to you then as Mr. Persistent?
Mr. Persistent. And I just hung around, and one day I got an opportunity. And I did the job, and they liked it, and they sent me more. They sent me more. Now I get, on average, probably about 3 jobs a week.
Wow.
From these guys.
So life lesson there is
never, when somebody doesn't use you immediately, don't see that as the end of the relationship. You just have to remain, make sure they don't forget about you. And,
wow. I don't think, it's really interesting because what happened, let me just interject something that happened to me this week as it relates to voiceovers. As you know, I bought a Focusrite Scarlett 2 i2 system.
Yes.
And I bought that back May of last year, finally got around to setting it up over the last week, and went through all the hassle. And here's an example of where if people are out there experiencing the same problem, maybe you can give me some advice as well as to them, which is, I got this all set up. I followed all their instructions and guidelines, called customer support 2 or 3 times, because I heard some metronomic clicking sounds in the background. And by the end of the day, having spent 4 hours setting up, 4 hours on the phone with support, they're now sending me a return authorization to return the equipment because apparently I've got something wrong with my equipment.
Oh, no.
So
Oh, no.
that is here. There are a lot of things, including waiting 4 years to get a client to give you work, that can slow you up from getting involved in the voice business, including initial setup, like I'm through, with being unable to get the machine. Because remember, you asked me, you said, hey, why don't you, as soon as you get the stuff up and running, send me your audio file and let me critique it. So that included me reading some copy as well as you listening to some dead air. And I have not yet been able to do that.
You know, it seems that oftentimes nothing comes easy. Everything, there's a process, and it does require a lot of patience. And I'm sorry for your hassle, though. That's a pain.
It's funny because, this relates to us in business, whether it's voiceover or anything else. But I had the life lesson for the kids, and I said, look, life is a series of complete, as the English would say, cock-ups that you're always trying to fix.
Yeah, that's true.
That's just how it is. And if you're expecting it to be different in this business, go fish, as we say.
Yeah, exactly. And don't get frustrated. You just keep going. You just keep stepping, put one foot in front of the other.
Got it. So what else on your part? Tell me about, so we've done a little bit of Tuesdays.
Yeah, I did some work for Intel, and that was the bulk of the work on Tuesday. So as you can see, as I mentioned last week, that most of my work is narration type work. That's really most of the work that's out there. And then on Wednesday, I did another big project for a European client. It was targeted to young people who were learning English, but they didn't speak English as a first language. Cool. So they wanted to hear an American voice. So they had me read I don't know how many pages. It's like 20 pages, actually. I did make a note, a 20-page script. So that was kind of fun.
And these were all different types of standard everyday scenarios?
Yes. Yeah. Just phrases like, Bob and I are going to go to the grocery store to pick up some bologna. I mean, just as an example, that kind of thing, just so they can hear everyday language. I did a regional TV commercial, and for the life of me now, I can't remember exactly what it was. I just made a note, regional TV. And I also did a regional car dealership commercial in addition to that. So I did do a few commercials this week. And then I had an additional, I made a note, 3 more jobs for European clients. Wednesday was mostly dedicated to my European clients.
You bring something up there with regards to the regional car dealers. Does the fact that you're the Chevrolet spokesperson for every place but the United States, does that help you get additional work in the car industry?
Not really. Most of these people have no idea. They don't know that's what I did. And frankly, when it comes to the local and regional dealerships, they don't want anything close to what I did for the Chevy. They don't want Chevrolet, find new roads. They want this weekend only, Bob Chevrolet, $199, 3,000 down, blah, blah, blah. That's what they want. So, yeah, it's a completely different thing.
Got it.
But it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah. In other words, it is different and it doesn't help you is what you're saying.
Exactly. Not at all.
Got it.
On Thursday, I did harassment training in the workplace. Harassment training in the workplace. It was a relatively long narration. Some financial narration for a media company. Let's see, I did a commercial for a music equipment auction. Who knew? I did some training for the National Automobile Dealerships Association. They provide training to dealerships all across America on how to, run the back office and how to look at their numbers and how to determine their profitability, all that kind of stuff.
I'm going to be giving a speech in August to, I think, the same group in San Antonio. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Hitachi, some more training for them. I did a corporate narration for a company called Verifone. They create a point-of-sale system for small and medium-sized retailers. Also did some driver training safety. And so that was Thursday, which was it's been a busy week. And the thing that, and I'll throw this in because this is just part of the gig of voiceovers, is that being self-employed, I really don't have the luxury of just taking time off whenever I want, because if I don't work, I don't get paid. And I've been sick most of this week. I had a sinus infection earlier in the week, and as I was telling you, I actually just came back from the doctor. It's turned into, it looks like bronchitis, early bronchitis. So, but as long as I can talk and as long as my clients still want it, I just keep cranking it out. So as soon as we're done, I'm hitting the bed.
Yeah, and so literally, let's use this as a way to tell people who are in the business, if they get sick, what should they do? Just soldier on?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I'll tell you the way I've handled it. and that is if I think that I sound bad enough that it's questionable,
Right.
I'll email or sometimes send a test file to the client and say, look, this is what I sound like. I just want to let you know. I'm available if you still need me. I'm glad to do it, but just so you know. And 9 times out of 10, they say, oh, I can't even tell. Go ahead and do it.
So now,
Literally.
with people, if you can think about maybe over the last year and a half, on average, how many days are you sick per year, or have you been sick per year?
Oh, I have never been sick, as in like I was in bed and couldn't get out of bed. I haven't been that sick in years. But I get this way where I'll get like a sinus infection type of, that's pretty common for me. That happens a few times a year. I would say probably a good week out of the year, 5, 7 days.
Got it.
I'll feel pretty crappy.
And so again, the technique there is to send them a test file and let them be the deciders of yes or no.
Yes, and I get to a doctor as quickly as I can so that if they can put me on an antibiotic and try to get things under control.
Good. Okay.
And
So
by
now,
the way, when I was at my doctor, we were discussing my profession, and he wants to talk to me about recording his on-hold messages.
everybody wants in. Oh, by the way, I came up with something that you probably don't know on the marketing side.
Yeah.
I was told this when I volunteered at church yesterday, and I got to talking, and this guy, Ian, this dude that I met, goes, oh, you've got a client that's in the voiceover business. Interesting. Did you know, and listen to this, that there are a number of people on Fiverr making 6 figures from Fiverr alone on voiceover?
Really? No, I did not know that. I'm
So,
shocked.
yeah, I am too. So that means that as soon as my equipment is up and running, that's going to be one place I'm going to start. But we ought to, let's delve into that and give people a report. Do you have a Fiverr profile up?
I used to. I've tried everything at some point, and I actually booked a few clients through Fiverr. But the way I did it was I didn't want to do $5 commercials. So what I did was I offered $5 for every, I don't know, 2 or 3 seconds of audio. It was broken down to some, so that if I would at least get a few bucks for doing a 30-second commercial. What I found, my experience was that they were the most difficult clients. Here's one of the universal truths of voiceover: the lower the pay the client, the more difficult they are. I would much rather do a $10,000 job for a client because you do the job and you're done. But a $10 client will keep coming back to you over and over and over. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
I think that that's true across other businesses as well. I found the same thing in other businesses as well. So maybe it's just a universal truth.
So prepare yourself. All I'm saying is
Absolutely.
prepare yourself.
So now we've gone through Thursday. Anything Friday here? Because I know you're kind of sick, so we're going to try and make it a little bit shorter than we normally would.
I did a couple of things. I did some imaging. There's a classic rock station that I'm the imaging voice for, so I did a few liners for them today. I did a promo for PBS New Mexico this morning, and I finished up a script for a Chinese manufacturing facility. We should talk about this sometime. Maybe not now, but sometime. When you're reading scripts that are written by somebody that it's clear they don't speak English as a first language, and when it comes to scripts written by people whose native language is Chinese, it is one of the most amazing adventures. I'll put it that way. I'll try to spin it as nicely as I can. It's unbelievable, and it's a challenge. But I do it, and they seem to be happy with it. As long as they're happy, I'm happy.
Right. Basically, you're saying that you don't want to be in the business of rewriting a script for a client.
No, you don't. And these scripts, to me, literally, they're nonsensical. They are, but again, they don't speak English as a first language, so they're translating, but the translations just don't make a lot of sense. So I just read it the way they give it to me because, literally, you could not pay me enough to try to fix all of that. They obviously know what they're trying to say. It's just a matter of me trying to read it.
I hear you. Okay, well, so it's we've gone pretty much through the week there. Anything else you want to include before we end? It's kind of an abbreviated session because you're under the weather.
The only one thing I'll add is in the midst of all of this, I was contacted about doing a commercial, and we're in the midst of negotiations, and the price right now. What's that?
Through an agent?
No, this was actually a direct contact, okay. And it's for it's an album coming out by a pop artist that they weren't at liberty to discuss. They couldn't tell me who it was, but $5,000 is the price that I quoted for this particular ad. And we've had several back and forth, so I don't know whether I'll get it or not.
Is involved?
What's that?
How much copy is involved?
Oh, it's like a 30-second
Got it.
commercial. Yeah, so it'll probably take me 10 or 15 minutes to do if I get the job, and I may not. But had I nailed that down this week, that would have made this week an over $10,000. That one
Nice.
job would have taken up to over $10,000.
Yeah, but those are few and far between, just so people know.
Right? Yeah, yeah. Those don't, at least for me, they don't come along every day or every week.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you had a pretty good week, and I know you're feeling kind of crappy. And so I want to thank you. This is Fred Gleek with Bill DeWeese, and thanks for going through your week, Bill.
Thanks, Fred. Have a great weekend.